Meanwhile, can you confirm if my screen is visible? Are you able to listen to me? Am I audible? My screen is visible. Okay, Lakshmi. Okay, then we'll start. Okay. So good evening, everyone. So yesterday we did not have any classes. So let us do a quick recap about the day before yesterday's class. Okay. So we were discussing about Java fundamentals, right? So there are the Java fundamentals can be categorized into 6 types. So we have keywords, you have identifiers, you have literals, you have something like operators, separators, and comment. So Java keywords, there are 51 keywords, and we are going to discuss this on the go. So we have started discussing about identifiers, right? Java identifiers. Very simple. Identifiers are nothing but assigning names. Assigning names to what? Assigning names to Java elements. What are the Java elements? You have classes, you have methods, you have interfaces. So you need to assign some names, some meaningful names to these Java elements, right? In order to assign that, you go for Java identifiers. However, you need to follow some rules and guidelines. You remember, right? So what are the rules? Must not, okay, Java identifier must not start with number or any special characters. And there is an exception only for these two symbols. One is underscore, the second one is the dollar symbol. Okay, you can use them as the starting letter. However, numbers and other special characters are not accepted. First point is very clear, right? However, you can use numbers and special characters where you can use them not in the first letter, not for the first letter, but in the middle or in between two words you can use them, right? So please, and also what is the second point that we have been discussing? No spaces. There should not be any space. There should not be any space to differentiate an identifier. Okay, when you are placing an identifier, that identifier as should not have any space. Right. The third one is the guideline. It is not a compulsion. It is a recommendation. So you can have an identifier between 4 to 15 characters. Very straightforward, I can say. The fourth one is you cannot use any one of the Java reserved words. So reserved words are always reserved for Java keywords. You cannot use them as an identifier. When you use them, when you violate this rule, you will get an error. Okay, and what is the last point? The last point says you cannot use any query language keywords like select keyword, from, count, where, max, by, between. There are some query language keywords that cannot be used as an identifier, and also it is a recommendation, not compulsion. So what is a compulsion? First point is it's a compulsory, second point is a compulsory, and the fourth point is a compulsory. The remaining points are just a recommendation. And these are the things that we have discussed on the other day. And there are two more points that you need to discuss. There are two more points, which is just like a contrast. Okay, there is a contradiction between these points. There are two more points. So when I say identifiers, I would say duplicates are not allowed. So these all the 5 points. If you combine all these 5 points, you can come to a conclusion that duplications are not allowed. Why duplications are not allowed? Because it will create a confusion. But there are few cases where you can use duplicate identifier. We will understand that today. It's the sixth rule. What Java says, you can use duplicates but in different scopes. Okay? Please be informed that duplicate identifiers are allowed but in different scopes. Different scopes. This is the exceptional case. So what does it really mean? I will explain you. What does it really mean? Duplicate duplicate identifiers are allowed. Okay, you can, this point is making sense. And also but in different scopes. What does it really mean is, well, let's take a real-time analogy. Let us try to understand the scope. Let us try to understand this scopes in Java. Very important. Scopes in Java are very important. Let us try to understand that first. To understand first let me give you a small real-time analogy. For example, let us say that I am giving an interview tomorrow. Tomorrow I am going to give an interview. Let us say that. Let us take it as an assumption. Okay. So the moment I start giving an interview, first question would be what? Tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself. Okay. What I would say? Let's imagine that I'm being very creepy. I'm just saying that Balaji, 5, Chennai, B.Tech, right? And I am also saying something like Wipro. So for his question, this is how my answer is. Hey, Balaji, tell me about yourself. I'm saying Balaji, 5, Chennai, B.Tech, Wipro. What you would think? You would think that I'm crazy, right? So if I give this kind of information by bits and pieces, you would think that I'm crazy. He cannot, but he can interpret it. He can interpret what I'm trying to say. Okay, but this is not the complete information. This is just the data I'm just telling you. He cannot even organize this in a proper way. This is just a data. He cannot even understand that what I'm trying to say, but he can try to interpret this, and he can come to a conclusion which may not be correct. Okay, when I say this, when I say the what we call it as, when I say my answer in bits and pieces, he may not understand. But what is the way that I can present my answer? What is the actual way? I can say like this, right? I can say that I am Balaji, okay, and I have 5 years of experience. 5 years of experience, and in addition, I am from Chennai, or I can simply say I am from Chennai. Chennai. Okay, I completed my B.Tech. I completed my B.Tech. Currently, I am working with Wipro. Currently, I am with Wipro. I am with Wipro. Okay. So this is how I need to present, right? This is how I need to present. So this is called as what? This is called as what? The complete information. So there is a marginal difference between the data and the information. Okay. So this is the actual data which is not organized. The data that is not organized is called, the things that is not organized. The things that is not organized is called as data. Okay. The things that are organized is called as what? Information. Right? Organized. This is completely organized. Now the interview panel would understand what I'm trying to say, right? He can interpret it, right? He can interpret it. Okay, Balaji is my name and I have 5 years of experience. Now interpreting is very easy for the interview panel, because that is what we have learned. So that is what that is how the English is designed. Yes or no? Likewise, even for Java, right? If you want to identify data, always remember Java will understand the code in a certain ways, especially the data. If you want to tell the Java, hey Java, take this as my data, take all this as my data. If you want to tell the Java, so this is my data, and this is also one of my data, this is also one of my data, and this two also one of my data. Okay, how do you represent your data in the form of Java programming language? How do you represent? Okay, very simple, very easy. To represent your data in the Java programming language would be very easy. So if you take my name, so name is always talking about what? A sequence of characters, right? A sequence of characters. Okay. Always ensure that you are placing a semicolon at the end of any data. Okay, this is not only thing that you need to do. Okay, you need to assign this. You need to assign this to an identifier, a meaningful identifier, very meaningful identifier. So what could be the meaningful identifier I can take? I can choose name is the meaningful identifier. Yes or no? Name is a meaningful identifier. And also Java will expect one more thing. What kind of data that you are choosing? Okay, I should tell the Java, okay, this is in the form of string, sequence of characters. Okay, having said this is how you can represent a number so that Java will understand. Okay, assign a number by saying that. So you talk about experience, right? In this context, this number is talking about the experience, right? So number can be represented in Java with the help of a data type that is integer, right? And also there is something like, again, you find sequence of character, right? So this one, third one, Chennai is again a sequence of characters. It should be placed inside a double quotes. Okay, followed by a semicolon, and it has to be assigned to a meaningful name. So what could be the meaningful name? Location could be the meaningful name, perhaps, right? Then I need to choose the data type, again string. Okay, and the fourth one is what? Again btech, and again btech is there. Btech is also sequence of characters, so that I can take it as a string. And Wipro. So Wipro, the meaningful name is what? Company. And Wipro I can take, and qualification. What is it? btech. Okay, so this is how Java can understand. This is how we understand. Okay, this is how we understand. We humans understand. The data needs to be organized in such a way that we are going to interpret, and it will make a lot of sense, right? Likewise, if you want to, this is just like this. This data is, this representation is just like this, but there is a marginal difference. Okay, humans can understand this, Java can understand like this. Now the question is how we are going to place this data, how we are going to place this data in the Java programming language. So let me write down the syntax as well. Okay, syntax says data. If you want to store any data in Java programming language, first of all choose the data type followed by identifier, meaningful name equal to followed by the value. This is a syntax. Right now Java will understand, okay, this person is he has added some data. So not some data, he has added some information. Now Java will understand this as an information, not the data. Even Java, if you write like this, Java will not understand. To make sure that Java is understanding your data, you should represent the data in the form of information to the Java programming language. For Java programming language, this information is completely organized. This is how you represent each and every data by choosing the Java programming language. Okay, having said this, we are trying to understand about scopes, right? Okay, now let me introduce Java scopes. To place any data in Java, there are two places, guys. Focus here. To place any data in Java, there are two places. One is what? One is you can place this in a class. Okay, let me take the name of the class as test. You can place the data inside a class. Secondly, you can also place a data inside a method. Let me take the name of the method as public void something like data example. There are two places that you can place this data. Now focus here. And also one more rule is there. Let us come to this. Next I will tell you about that rule. If you are placing the data, like example, this is one set of data. If I want to place this data, I am placing this data inside a method, or if this data is getting occupied inside a method, or it is getting placed inside a method. Okay, you call this as what? You call this data as what? The local variable, or it is representing the local scope. Very simple. When the data is placed inside a method, you call it as the local variable. What do you call? You call this data as what? You call this as a variable. What variable specifically? If you want to be very specific, you should say it is a local variable, or it is inside this local scope. Likewise, if not, if you want to place a set of data inside a class but outside the method, just inside the class, you can call this as a variable. If you want to be very specific, you can call this as what? The class level variable. Okay, let me repeat this. When the data is placed inside a method, you can call it as what? It becomes local variable. Okay, this variable becomes what? Local variable. If the same data is getting placed inside a class, any data, if it is getting placed inside the class level, is called as what? The class level variable. Okay, and if you talk about the scope, this is class level scope. You can also say it as, okay, this variable is inside the class scope, or it is sharing the class level scope. And if you talk about this variable, okay, if you want to be very specific about this variable is a local variable, and also it is inside the method scope, method level scope. Making sense, right? Okay. Having said this, and also the again, okay, now you got to understand about what are the scopes. Okay, now you got to understand about what are the scopes. Now you go back to the question and see. Please be informed that duplicate identifiers are allowed in different scopes. Okay, this is one of the exceptional cases. So that is what I am trying to say, right? Okay, now let us say that I have a data. Okay, let me take a different data. Integer data equal to 100. Okay, this is called as, we know, now we got to know, okay, this is a variable. We want to be very specific. Okay, this is the local variable, very specific local variable, because this is inside the method. Okay, when any variable is declared inside a method, that variable becomes local variable. And again, you just cannot do what, you cannot just keep this method as a standalone. Every method needs to be inside a class. Every method has to be inside a class, isn't it? Every method has to be inside a class, right? Now data is a variable name which is a local variable because it is inside a method. It is inside a Java method, right? And also you can't duplicate this identifier. You can duplicate this identifier. So there will be a lot of places why we are going to do, because we have an option not to duplicate, but still we duplicate. There are some reasons we are going to understand that in the future. Okay, so this is also data. This is the variable, this identifier name is also data. You place it here. Okay, this variable you call this as what? Class level variable. Class level variable, right? And this variable is called as what? Local variable. You can also call it as, okay, this variable is a class scope and this variable is a low. But you need to observe one thing. The identifiers are same, data and data. Okay, so duplicate. They are duplicate. It is allowed only if they are sharing different scopes. This is also duplicate and this is also duplicate, but we are very specific. You are making a duplicate variable in different scopes. Okay, one variable is inside a class outside the method. Okay, and the second variable is inside the method. So both are in the different scopes. In this case, duplicates are allowed. That is what I mean. Duplicate identifiers are allowed, but in different scopes. This is an exceptional case. Okay, what is the name of this variable? You can say data. Okay, please be specific. You should say, sir, this is a local variable. Because why? Because it is inside a method. Okay, what is the name of this variable? Again, data. Okay, and please be specific. You should say this is the class level variable, or it is sharing the class level scope. Making sense? If you have understood, type S in the chat box, or you can unmute and speak. If you have understood so far, everyone. 1 plus 1 is what, guys? What is 1 plus 1? At least type that. Because what is happening, people are, turning on the laptop and they're placing it somewhere and going. So that's why I'm asking this question. Everyone. I'm expecting answers from everyone so that I can check who is with the laptop or who is not with the laptop. Okay, then I'm satisfied. Now see, now let us take a class. Okay, I want to take a name of the class as test. Okay, to test whether we can really keep an identifier in different scopes. Okay, now I want to take a name of the method as public void is something like data. What was the name of the method that you have taken here? Data example. Data example. Let us take the same variable. Data example. Done. So if I take the variable name integer data equal to 100. Okay, if I ask you, this is a variable name data. Okay, and I'm duplicating this. I'm duplicating this, but this time I'm placing this variable name in a method. So they don't share the same scope. They are sharing the different scopes. So they are under different scopes, right? So let me try to do the compilation. So if it is okay, compiler will not shout at me. If it is not okay, compiler will definitely shout at me, right? So let us try to understand that. Test.java. Okay. Now I have just saved the Java program. So I want to perform the compilation, right? To perform the compilation, command prompt I need to open. On D, let me choose the right directory. cd space java2 is the right directory. I want to perform the compilation. So what is the command? Java c space test dot. The moment I do this, so compiler is not having any complaints. So this is valid, right? Now if you go and see, always try to do this, okay? Whenever you are getting this kind of question. Okay, now if I take this example, let me take, I have a class test, okay? And I also have what? I have also have this method public void data example. Public void data example. Okay. I have this method public void data example. Okay. Now let me take this. Let me take this one minute, guys. Okay, sorry about that. I just locked the house. Okay, this example. See, now if I take this variable, okay, now here, always try to identify. Okay, I can find a duplication here. I can find a duplication. Data is a variable, and this data is also a variable. Duplication is there. Okay, the variable name is duplicated, but this duplicate variable is sharing the same scope. Both are inside the same level, class level. Okay, is this accepted? This is not accepted. If I try to recompile this, you would get an error like, okay, now compiler is shouting at us. Variable data is already defined. Why are you defining it once again? Because they are sharing these two variables are sharing the same scope. Likewise, even though if you put the same variable here, okay, and if you remove this, okay, again these two variables are sharing the same scope. Same scope in the sense method scope or local scope. Okay, let me save this and let me do the recompilation. Java c space test.java. Again you are getting the same error. Variable data is already declared. Why are you declaring it once again? It is a duplication. Okay, it has a problem if it is sharing the same scope, if the duplicate variables are sharing the same scopes, but it does not have any problem if the duplicate variables are sharing the different scopes. In this case you will not get any error. If I do java c space test or java, compare is okay. I am not finding any duplications here, because one variable is declared inside the class scope, second variable is discussed inside the method scope, declared inside the method scope. Okay, able to understand? Okay, now you tell me, is this valid or is this invalid? Come on, answer. If I compile this, will I get error or will, I will get no error? Very big question. Huh? If I compile this, will I get error? Will I get no? You can unmute and speak if you want. Okay, try to find if there are any duplicates in the same scope. Then you have the answer. You are taking much time. No one is ready to answer this question. Sudhir, Prasanna, Asna is not there. Purnima, Revati, Dinesh.
No,
Only Purnima is answering. What about others?
no error.
Why no error? Any answer for that? Okay, let me answer this.
Data.
Yeah.
Two different variables.
Yes, correct. So these are not a duplicate, because this data, okay, the first letter of this variable or identifier is in lower case and this uppercase, right? So Java is case sensitive. It will not treat these two variables as a duplicate. So they are different, right? So, and this is different. If you identify duplicate, actual duplicate is these two are duplicates, right? And this is not even a duplicate. And these two variables are sharing the different scopes. That's why when you perform the compilation, okay, you would not get error. This is completely valid. Okay, making sense. Okay, having said this, you need to understand one more thing. Let me say this is valid. This is valid. Valid. Okay. Now you have to understand something like the concept of reassignation. The concept of what? The concept of reassignation. Let me to understand that. Let me say that. Okay. So let me remove this. Let me remove this as well. Let me take this simple code. Simple piece of code. Okay. Now we are trying to understand the concept of reassignation. So you have something like data here. Okay. So the moment you are calling this method, guys, the moment you are calling this method, something will happen behind the scenes. Okay. In the memory areas, many things will happen. Okay. The one major thing is the moment you try to call this method, all the instructions inside this method has to get executed, right? So there is only one instruction. This is the instruction. Okay. The moment the main thread is pointing towards this instruction, it will create a stack. Okay. And inside the stack, it will ensure that the value 100, okay, is getting assigned to the variable name which you have declared. Data is a variable name. Okay. So it is going to store this. Okay. This is what happens behind the scenes. This is what the reference is. Reference for this memory is assigned to the variable name data. Done. All instructions are executed. Then what happens, this memory area will be destroyed after this. It will be destroyed after this. Okay. Now what I'm adding one more line here. Now focus here. Okay. I thought, okay, I want to assign 100, but I did a mistake. Instead of assigning 1000, okay, accidentally I have assigned 100. I want to change this. So what I am doing, without even touching this code, I'm trying to make some changes. How do I make these changes? I'm doing what? Integer data equal to 100 again. The problem is here, if I do this, compiler is going to shout at us, right? Compiler will definitely shout at us. It is identifying duplicates. Hey, why did you using the same variable name over and over again? Okay, so compiler is going to shout at us. Okay, but what I want to actually do, I want to actually do something like integer data equal to 1000. I want to assign 1000, but accidentally it was assigned as 100. I want to do a kind of reassignation in the runtime. For example, if you want to imagine these things in the runtime, your account balance keeps get updated, isn't it? Okay, today your account balance will be different, tomorrow will be different, day after tomorrow will be different. Okay, on the salary date will be different. Again, evening it will be 0. For example, let us take the balance as an example. Balance equal to, once the amount is credited to your account, let us say that 10,000 rupees has been credited into your account, right? It keeps getting updated, right? It keeps getting tomorrow it is going to be something like 5,000. So you cannot do these things, right? If you're trying to do this, if you're trying to do these things, it is a duplication. But you want to do what? You want to just make changes to the value. Focus here. Let me remove this. Okay, if you give the code to the compiler will say, I have found a duplicate variable. I cannot compile this. How you can convince the compiler to compile this? Because your balance keeps getting changed. You're not supposed to change the variable name. You keep the variable name just like that. This variable name keeps on getting changes. Okay, so how you are going to do the convince the compiler? Usually what happens, okay, what happens behind the scenes when this piece of code is getting executed, okay, and there is a value called 10,000, okay, and name of the variable is balance. Okay, this is going to get assigned to this one, right? So you are going to do some withdrawal, okay, and you are withdrawing 5,000. This should get reflected in here, right? This should get reflected here. But the problem here is you cannot use the same variable name. What is the solution? What are they? This concept is called as what? Reassigned. Reassigning the values. Reassigning the values. Reassigning the. How can I do that? Okay, very simple, very simple. Just don't use the data type. Don't use what? Don't use the data type. For the second time, if you want to use the same variable name, you can use that. You can duplicate that variable name inside the same scope. But one thing, you will ensure that you are not using what? You are not choosing the data type. You will remove the data type and you will choose the balance. If you are doing like this, if you keep doing like this, for example, today, yesterday, your account has been credited with 10,000 rupees. You did some withdrawal, now the balance has become 5,000 rupees, and again you did with some withdrawal, and what happened? Your balance has become something like 1,000 rupees. Okay. Again you did withdrawal and your balance has become what? Something like 100 rupees. Okay. In these cases, there is no, you cannot call this as duplication, because one time this declaration is happening only one time. Okay. This complete part is called as declaration. Okay, and the remaining part, okay, and the remaining parts is what? Just reassignation. These things are what? Just reassignation. This will not come under duplicate. What happened? The control comes here. Okay, control comes here and it will execute all the instructions. It finds, 10,000 has been created. What is a variable name? Balaji identifier. I mean, not Balaji. Balance is an identifier. Balance 10,000. It will come here again. Okay, again, it has become 5,000. What it will do? It will go to the memory. This control will ensure that it will go to the memory. It will delete this. Okay, now it has become 5,000. Okay, and again it will go back. Let will see. Or again it become 1,000. Okay, it will go to the memory, balance memory, and it will remove that, and it will become what? 1,000. Again, what happens? It will go back. And it will find, okay, again the balance has become 100. We'll remove this, okay, and it will become what? 100. So this concept is called as what? Reassignation. For reassignation, you don't consider this as what? Duplicates, because if the declaration is complete, and if you are doing the complete declaration over and over again with the same identifier name, that is duplicate. Now in this case, it is just reassignation. These three things are called what? Reassignation. Making sense? So this will not be come under what? This will not come under the concept of what? Duplication. Making sense? Yes, no? What I'm trying to say? Anyhow, we will also develop ATM application in the future. Just try to understand what is reassignation. Am I clear? Are we good to proceed further? Reassignation? Yes, no? Everyone? Type something in the chat box. If you're comfortable, you can speak also. Right. Now you see, I want to replicate. Now I want to replicate this in the by using the reader. Okay. Data, same thing. Data equal to 100. Next time I am taking data equal to 1,000. Next time I am taking data equal to something like 2,000. Okay, let me save this. Okay. Now to do the compilation. Now I am not getting any error, because this is what you are using only one variable name, and you are keep performing what? The reassignation. Okay, you are clever enough. I think you should answer this question. Public static void main string array dots system dot out dot println 1 int data equal to system dot out dot println data, okay, system dot out dot println data plus 1. Can you answer this question? Anyone? What could be the output?
134.
What about others?
134.
Agree? So why 134? So we have declared it as to why. Let us check this. We are getting 134. Okay, 134 is correct. Now you see the reassignation is happening behind the scenes without our knowledge. The reassignation is happening behind the scenes. how it is actually happening. Okay, so this concept will make more sense. Okay, this is my code, this is our code, right? What does our code says? This is a plain English. You want to convert this to what? You want to convert this code as just Java code. What we are going to do? Okay, we have to make sure that it is getting saved with the .java extension, right? The moment you do this, you can call this as a source code, Java source code. After this, compiler will come into the picture. Okay? So without compilation, execution is impossible. That is how the Java is designed. For the compilation, the typical command is what? Java C space test.java, right? So the compiler, after this, compiler is going to generate what? It is going to generate something like a dot class file. Okay, we'll say how many classes are there? Only one class, only one class is there inside this file. So only one dot class file will be generated, right? So this will take what? Test.java inside. Source code will be taken by the compiler and it is going to produce what? Test.class file. Okay, and there is also a JVM. Okay, JVM is there. JVM is waiting to execute the dot class file, JVM. Okay, how do you activate this JVM? How do you ensure that this dot class file is getting loaded inside the JVM? You should use another command, another typical command, which is what? Test, Java space test class name. The moment you do this, okay, you are taking this test.class file inside the JVM, right? And JVM will do what? JVM will create a main thread. Okay, this main thread will get access to the main method. Okay, it will keep finding for what? It will keep finding for the main method. Okay, inside which class? Inside the test class. Test class inside the main method. Okay, it has found the main method. What is the first instruction? Direct what? You have to print what? You have to print only one in the console. So there is a console. Okay, console one will be printed, right? So what is the second instruction? Second instruction is what? You are doing something. You're doing what? What you are doing? Data equal to 2. You have taken the variable name as data and you are assigning a value as 2, right? So behind the scenes, what is happening? So there is a value 2 which is assigned to the variable name data, right? The concept of reassignation. So it may look simple, but you could do a lot of complicated things with the concept of reassignation. Okay. Again, you're doing what? This is going to see, okay, the value 3 is getting again assigned to the data variable. So reassignation is happening here, right? So this 2 will be changed to what? This 2 is going to get changed to 3. Right? Again, what is happening? You want to print the exact value that is available inside the data. What is the right value that is at the moment, at the current moment, what is the right value inside the data? 3 is the right value. So in the console, 3 will be printed. Okay. Now again, what is happening? Okay, you are doing a manipulation. You are doing an indirect manipulation. You are saying, okay, data plus 1. You are saying data plus 1. What is the value inside the data? Actual value inside the data is 3, isn't it? Okay, you are taking this data 3 and you are doing what? You are adding 1 to it. You are performing an arithmetic operation to it and you want this to be displayed at the console. So this plus 1, 3 plus 1 becomes what? 4, right? 4, and 4 will be displayed on the console. Right? Even though you find duplicate here, this is not duplicate identifiers here. You don't consider this as a duplicate identifier because you are not using the data type for the second time. You are not using the data type for the second time. The moment you start using the data type for the second time, then it will be treated as what? Duplicate. Making sense? Everyone? Yes, no? Okay. So this is one of the exceptional cases that we would come across. And again, one more exceptional case is there. The seventh point. The seventh point says, okay, now let me go back here. So what I was just saying, now look at this. Sixth one is, please be informed that duplicate identifiers are allowed but in different scopes. The seventh point says, seventh point, there is another last point. This is the last point for what? For the Java identifiers. Seventh point says, okay, in Java, we are able to use all predefined class name. We are able to use all predefined class names and interface names as an identifier. What does this really mean? Okay, so reserved words we cannot use. That is what reserved words are 51 words are there that we cannot use. But Java says Java is giving you an option. Java software is giving you an option. Hey, you can use the predefined class names as an identifier. I don't have any issues with that, but it is not recommended. But it is not recommended. What does that really mean? It is not highly recommended. Highly recommended. Why this option is available here? Because let me give you another analogy. Let me give you what? Let me give you another analogy. Let me take myself. Okay. Let me give you the proper organized information. What is that proper organized information? This time, Balaji woke up at 7 a.m. Balaji woke up at what? 7 a.m. Now focus here. He visited Lord Balaji temple at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m. Okay. Followed by he had breakfast at Balaji Bhavan at 10 a.m. This information is very organized. Okay, if I tell this to you, now you are in a position to interpret this as an information. You can able to understand. Okay, this Balaji is what? This Balaji is a name, right? Name of the person, right? And this Balaji is talking about Lord Venkateswara, Lord Balaji, and this Balaji is talking about an hotel. Based on these given sentences, you are in a position to understand. Okay, you can interpret very easily based upon this sentence formation. Which Balaji am I? If I refer to this Balaji, if I just speak about this line, okay, this is talking about the name of the person. This is talking about the the deity, the god. This is talking about what? This is talking about the hotel. You are in a position to type. Likewise, in Java there are some predefined classes. So when I say predefined classes, string is a predefined class, and you have something like string buffer. String buffer is a predefined class. Okay, and you have something like what? You have something like thread class. Thread class is a predefined class. There are so many such classes. System class is a predefined class. Okay, so what are these predefined class? If I ask you, you can easily understand it like this. If you are a programmer and I am also a programmer, tomorrow if you want to develop a functionality, if you want to develop a calculator application, so you are developing an application. So to develop any application, basically that application needs to be developed inside a class. You need to identify that class with a meaningful name. So for the identification, I am taking the example as calculator. Okay. And if I ask you, this calculator is a class. Okay, this is the user defined class. This is a functionality that is developed by the programmer or the developer. User has developed this, not Java. It is not available there already inside Java. User has developed this functionality by using Java fundamentals. So you call this as what? User defined class. Likewise, Java has developed some functionality by using classes. So they are called as what? They are called as what? Predefined classes. This list of classes are what? Typically called as what? Predefined classes. Okay, now what Java says, hey boss, you can use now see, if I am declaring one variable name like this, integer, data equal to Balaji. Okay, Java is good enough to identify. Okay, this is the variable name, and you are not this one. It should be string, right? Okay, this is the variable name. Okay, and this is the value, and it is getting stored by using the data type string. Java is very good enough to identify based upon the context. Okay, so this is this sequence of characters you are using string based upon the context. It is least bothered about this identifier. This lead unless and until you are not violating the rules. unless and until you are not violating the first rules that we have discussed. We cannot start with a number unless until not violating this. It is very happy. Likewise, Java will not have any issues if you use a variable name like this: integer string equal to 1000. Okay, in this context, if I ask you, you would say, sir, int is the data type, string is the, because the based upon the placeholder it is occupying, based upon the position that is occupying, you can say it is a variable name. This is the value. Again, when you want to debug this variable name, Java won't debug. Java will try to see if this variable is starting with a number, not accepted. If it is starting with a special symbol, not accepted. Okay, or else what we have apart from this, if it is a duplicate, not accepted. Okay, so this will just look at the not not accepted, the cases that the rules are getting violated or not. Okay, but so string, okay, string is already predefined data type. Java will understand, okay, this string variable is something different. Okay, this context is something different because the programmer is trying to store a value by using the string, but the context is different here and this string is different here. Based upon the context, based upon the place, the Java is clever enough to identify, okay, this is the variable name. This string is what? The variable name, and this string is what? Actually the string. Same with this Balaji, this organized information. If you see like this only, you are able to decipher what this Balaji is about and what this Lord Balaji is about and what this Balaji Bhavan is about. Likewise, based upon the value and based upon the scope, Java is clever enough to identify, okay, this string is something different and this string is something different. So duplications are all, I mean, what it says, you can use the predefined class names and interface names as identifier, but it is not recommended. You will not get any compilation error. See, in tomorrow, you will get a question like this. See, now they would ask you, okay, this is value 200, and they would say, okay, they would say, I have something like what? They would say, they would give this piece of code. Let me compile this. Okay, they would give this piece of code to you. The interview room, they would ask you, is this a valid code or invalid code? They would ask you. What we think, usually in our mind, we would think, okay, this is the data type and this is also data type. Two data types, and you are using a value to assign this data. We blindly would say, no sir, this is not valid. This is what come into our mind, but actually this is valid. But first of all, you need to just identify what are these things. Identify. Okay, the first thing is what? The first thing is a data type. First thing is a data type. After the data type, you declare whatever the name with a space, that will always treated as an identifier. No matter if this identifier is already there in Java or not there in Java. If it is identified in the form of predefined classes, no matter. This is an identifier that is already there in the form of predefined classes. Okay, Java says, I will accept the predefined classes when you use it as an identifier. I am clever enough to understand the variations. I am clever enough to identify the differences. Right? So this placeholder is for what? This is for identifier or variable name. And the third placeholder is what? After the assignment equal to operator, you can call this as what? You can call this as value. Right? When it comes to identifier, when it comes to this identifier especially, okay, try to understand there are to identify something, you cannot start that identifier with the numbers, or you cannot start that identifier with with special symbols, right? And you cannot do this is the one of the rule, and you cannot give any spaces to the identifier. Okay, rules, these are the rules. Spaces you should not give, right? And what is the third rule? You cannot use the reserved words. You cannot use the reserved word. So these are the things that you cannot do. These are the things that you cannot do. Reserved words cannot do. You cannot give spaces. You cannot give the. You cannot start the identifier with a number or with the special character. except for the dollar symbol and equal to. But here you are using the predefined class name. Okay, you are using here what? You are using a predefined class name. They are saying this is accepted. This is not a reserved word. You are using what? You are using predefined class name. Can be used, but it is not recommended. That's it. Okay. Now you tell me if this is valid or invalid. Everyone, is this code valid or invalid?
Invalid.
Why invalid?
So both are strings.
What about others? Do you agree with Sudhir?
It has to be an integer, but we have defined it as string.
Yeah, this is the right answer. This is what I am expecting. Because first of all, you need to see. First of all, you need to see. See. Okay, let us prove that incompatible types. Okay. Now you see. Let us make some enhancement. Okay. So this data is what integer, but you want to assign this integer to what type? You want to assign this integer to string type. So what is the first change that you can do? You can do what? Now this becomes valid, isn't it? Now this is completely valid, right? Now you tell me. Okay, I am making another changes here. Think and tell me. This is valid or invalid? When you
Valid.
what about others? Do you agree with Sudhir? Prasanna is not a Purnima or Manisha, Dinesh, Lakshmi, Monica. Okay, let me compile this. Not getting any error. It means this is valid. Why this is valid? Just now I have given the explanation, isn't it? If you see, right? So string is a one of the what we call it as string is one of the predefined class, right? Where is that explanation? String is one of the predefined class. Okay, I said for an identifier you can use the predefined class. Okay, so when I say string, okay, this is talking about the data type. Okay, and what I want to do, I want to use the same name for the identifier also. I want to use the same name for the identifier also. Followed by I want to assign a value like what? Balaji. Okay, we are talking about specifically talking about identifier. Identifiers can be what? Can be predefined class names, but it is not recommended. I'm saying. So they will confuse you in the interview room with the fundamentals. They would give you like this, and they would expect a question no answer no from you, because by looking at this we directly come to a conclusion this is impossible. Okay, but it is possible based upon the rule that I have given. What is the rule that I have given? Not I. What is the rule that the Java has given? Okay, you can use the predefined classes as an identifiers. Okay, you can use the predefined class names and interface names as an identifier. Okay, this Java will not have any issues. We're only talking about the identifier. With respect to identifier, these things are valid. Okay. When this becomes invalid, only when I start this with a number. Okay, now you see this variable name is getting started with a number. This is invalid. This variable name, if you give any spaces, str space ing, right, this becomes invalid. Right, and also what is other case? If you use any reserved words like what? Integer is int is a reserved word. It's not predefined class. Remember, this is the predefined class. This is a reserved words. Anyhow, we are going to see that in detail. For now, try to understand about identifiers. This is reserved words. This is under 51 reserved words. I cannot use this as an identifier. It is breaking. It is violating. And also public. Public is also an identifier. When public is also a reserved word. Reserved words cannot be used as an identifier. Okay, violation is there. Direct violation is there. You're getting an error. Apart from that, they are saying use the predefined classes as an identifier. Okay, let me use string buffer. String buffer is also one of the predefined class. It will not make, you will not get any kind of complications here. You're not getting any error. Understand everyone? Yes, no? Are we good so far? This is all about what? This is all about Java identifiers. Okay? It is why it is very important to discuss this. In future, to develop applications, you have to deal with lot of data. So you will do a lot of reassignation. You are forced to use what? Duplicates, and you also forced to ensure what? Their duplicates are sharing in the two different levels. Class scope as well as the various scope. Today we have understood only these two. By this I can conclude that by the 6th point and by the 7th point I can completely conclude that we have completed successful identifiers. Okay. That's it. Do you have any